A sudden burst of optimism on the housing front today as we saw the largest monthly gain in a decade when it comes to confidence in the newly built single-family home market. The National Association of Home Builders Index rising 7 points to 42. Let's talk about the housing market and the boost of business creation, among other things. Joining us now is Shark Tank investor Barbara Corcoran, host of the Business Unusual podcast, founder of the Corcoran Group. Barbara, always wonderful to see you. Let's start with the trillion-dollar question. Is the worst behind us in the housing market? What are you seeing out there?
I think the worst is behind us because the housing market is showing signs of life for the first time in the last year. Everybody believes, whether it's true or not, that the Fed is done lifting rates. And with that, it's ushered a few more buyers into the marketplace. But when you think about it, the average price that we paid a while ago is not very different than we're paying 1 year later. I think the price now is $366,000, which is only 2% up from a year ago. But to pay for that house with the higher interest rates, the home buyer has to pay another $600 a month. Think about that. That's what slowed down the housing market, mostly the interest rates. The big problems still are high interest rates, and there's still a lack of inventory.
Yeah, so Barbara, that leads me then to, yes, we are starting to see signs of life, like you said, in the housing market. What's it going to take for the housing market to take off? When you talk about that mortgage rate number, what does that need to fall to in order to really see a huge boost in activity?
It's going to have to drop 2 points, and people are going to act like there's a sale on. Anybody who even has the first thought of buying a house is going to rush the market, and then we're going to have house prices go through the roof again, as we saw 2 years ago.
So real estate agents are currently having a tough time, no question about that, with sales and inventory where they are. One of the new tools they have at their exposure is ChatGPT. We're told many of them are using it to write listings, even legal documents. But Elon Musk, who co-founded OpenAI today, called it one of the biggest risks to civilization today. How are your agents using ChatGPT, and how can it be a game changer in real estate?
It's not just agents in real estate. Everybody's using it. If you have a low IQ, suddenly you could look smart. The same kind of documents you had to review that would take an hour, you see in 2-3 minutes. People are writing emails and texts and explanatives of the market to their customers. It's like the whole world got a genius implant. This thing is such a game changer. I'm sure it's not just limited to real estate, but boy, is it helping us.
Barbara, you certainly have a pulse on what's going on right here in New York City. Give us a sense of the demand picture right now in New York City. And we were just looking at your site not too long ago. There's a townhouse on sale right now for $80 million. It's up on your website. It's on Fifth Avenue, prime real estate, Upper East Side, 8 beds, 10 baths, around 20,000 square feet. Do you think there's a buyer out there for that?
I think it's going to be a hard buyer to find. You know, it's owned by the richest man in Mexico. He bought it 10 years ago. I think it was for $44 million, and he's almost doubled the price and hoping to get that. He's not going to get that. He's going to get about 40, if he's lucky, 45 million, which doesn't even cover the commission. I probably shouldn't say that. The reason being there are half a dozen houses just like it on the marketplace that are not selling. And the reason they're not selling is not so much that most of them are overpriced, but the problem is people don't want to do gut renovations of old mansions anymore. It's asking too much. It costs too much money. And the foreigners aren't buying them. The Wall Street has had a rough year last year, so they're not buying them. So the million-dollar question is who's going to pay that $80 million for that house and all the other houses on the market? They're just sitting.
Yeah, we saw a lot of wealth leave New York, and in particular, take it down to Florida, where suddenly 9 of the most expensive 12 zip codes in the country now exist in the state of Florida. How much are you seeing that exodus of wealth in New York?
Well, it's new money and old money, but held by older people that are going down to Florida. And I would have said that was generally what was happening until 2 years ago. And now we see an exodus of a lot of young people who are taking their wealth and bringing it down to Florida. It's an exodus of wealth and taxes to the city. So I don't know what's going to happen, but there's been a bellwether change. All
right, we want you to take off your real estate cap and put on the Shark Tank cap. Fascinating numbers in terms of business creation in this country. More than 5 million new businesses were created in 2022. That's an increase of 44%. Really a staggering statistic coming out of COVID. Do you have any sense of what's behind that and what types of businesses are being created?
Well, you've got businesses being created in every sector. So there's no difference than there was 10 years ago, but the quantity is what the game changer is. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur today. They had time to sit home and think that they really don't like their job and they really don't want to answer to their boss. And they think the golden ticket is to start your own business. But the real question is, how many of these people are going to succeed? It's not easy to build a business. It's a great time to build a business because there's so much uncertainty and concern. So people are open-minded to new ideas and new concepts. But to actually succeed in business takes a certain type of person. And most of the people who are opening their shops are not that type of individual, which is they have to have tremendous enthusiasm, a phenomenal work ethic, and more than anything else, they have to be aggressive. And a lot of people mix up starting a business with enjoying a hobby. So we're going to have to wait and see how they go. But how great is it that people are taking their own life into their hands and deciding to take control and start their own business? That's the best news of all.
It certainly is great news, and it really is a stunning number given where we are in this economic cycle right now. Barbara, when we talk about what keeps workers maybe at larger companies, those that aren't leaving to start their own, it's been interesting to see more and more companies are bringing their workers back to the workplace. The latest data out here from Castle Systems, which tracks badge swipes, is saying that about half of workers are back in the office at least a couple days a week. What is your advice to those people? Because we know a lot of workers are upset. They don't want to return to the office. What do employers need to do to keep those employees happy?
Well, my advice would be more to the employer, the boss. The fact of the matter is they're not in charge anymore. The employees are. And the quicker they realize that, the better they are going to be able to run their businesses. If you go into anywhere in Midtown Manhattan or downtown Wall Street, you find that Fridays are dead. Mondays are just a crapshoot whether anybody comes in. Even when they offer free dinners and lunches and parties, people still aren't coming in. And when foot traffic is down, people don't go to the restaurants. They don't go to the bars after work. The whole economy suffers. The city is suffering. They're losing so much money in sales revenue because of the worker taking control and saying, I don't want to go in. And if you look at the biggest companies here in our town, in New York City, those buildings are half empty. They're half empty. And in fact, recently, I've been watching on the real estate front that the new leases are being negotiated for a percentage of their, the rent is being negotiated for a percentage of their sales. I've never seen that before. I never thought that would happen. So what remains to be seen is, are the bosses going to realize they're not in charge? The employee is in charge. I don't think it's going to change much.
We hope you're right. All right, let's put on that third cap. Business Unusual podcast host. Quick game, quick answers. Trend or trademark? First up, quiet quitting. Is it a trend or would you trademark it?
It's over. It was a trend. You know what's happening is the guy who's sleeping at his desk, the boss is really looking at them, or even if they're at home, they're looking at them. They're not going to keep their job. You better get over that.
Barbara, what about canned cocktails, CBD cocktails? Certainly have seen a rise in both as of lately. More and more companies pushing into these categories. What do you think?
It's a trend. It's just getting started. People love to drink them. It's healthier than a can of beer and makes you feel happy. What's wrong with that? And you could drink it and act like you have a can of soda.
Pickleball. All right, how about pickleball? Trend or would you trademark it? We hear about pickleball every day.
Well, it used to be for grannies and grandpas, right? But they got their grandchildren playing, and now everybody is playing it. So I would say trademark that one.
And Barbara, we know that you're very fashionable, so weigh in on one of the biggest hits coming out of Fashion Week this week. Mischief sneakers boots, these massive red boots. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to look at these yet, but they're huge. They look like they should really belong to some sort of cartoon character.
Actually, they look to me like they belong on Mickey Mouse. So if you're into Mickey Mouse, great idea. But if not, it's a trend, and it will last about a week. They look like they weigh 50 pounds to my eye.
They look uncomfortable, that's for sure.
I am with you on that. Barbara Corcoran, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us on Yahoo Finance.
Thank you very much.